Hey y'all, welcome back to the Inner. Today I'm joined by my brother Sharif Anael Bay. Hey, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic.
Very good.
If you could introduce yourself to the audience, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Um, my name is Sharif Anael Bey. I'm your brother. I'm professionally, I'm a lifelong martial artist and martial arts instructor. I own and operate a martial arts school in upstate New York, Syracuse, New York. I um, I am the national press secretary for the Moorish Science Symbol of America Incorporated under the leadership of Brother R. Jones Bey and his assistant, Brother A. Hopkins Bey. I'm also the Grand Sheik of a local temple in Syracuse, New York. Um, I'm a very, very avid researcher and student of all things spiritual. Um, yeah, and I emphasize avid student of all things spiritual. So I've got some experiences with a number of different schools of thought regarding spirituality and functional spirituality. Um, that also includes my martial arts tradition. That also includes my martial arts tradition carries a very very strong spiritual component. So
That's powerful because
yes.
that was going to be my first question of which really came first for you. Was it martial arts or was it spirituality?
Well, I would say martial arts definitely came first. I began martial arts training at age 5. I went to live with my father at age 4 on the East Coast in New York. He took me to see a martial arts demonstration, and that was it. It kind of found me. So we went crazy. My father bought me lessons for my 5th birthday, and that was it. That one act of him doing that set me on my life path.
That's cool. So, what arts did you end up practicing?
I began with Taekwondo at age 5. Um, and then not long after that was introduced to the Chinese martial arts, Taekwondo being Korean. I was
Mhm.
introduced to the Chinese martial arts not long after that, and that's what I stuck with. There's hundreds of Chinese martial arts, under the slang word kung fu. Kung fu just means any martial art that comes from China. So Tai
Yeah,
Chi is a kung fu style. Wing Chun is a kung fu style. The style that I settled with and train and teach is the style called the Hung Family Fist or Hong Ga Kung Fu.
got you.
Yes,
Yeah, that fits your build. You chose like a stockier,
sir.
more body. That's hanga.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's cool. That's cool. So, in getting into martial arts, since you've practiced a few of them,
Yes.
uh, what have been some of the similarities that you found, or some of the things within them where you're like, okay, this is what makes this one stand out. This is what makes this one a bit more special.
Well, wow. Once again, even the style of Honga found me, right? I remember, I grew up in the Bruce Lee era, and so Bruce Lee was our idol.
Mhm.
And I remember, reading up on Bruce Lee's upbringing, martial arts upbringing, and his system that he grew out of was a system called a Wing Chun.
Yeah.
And I remember, you know, putting my money together and writing this long letter to O'Hara Publications and, sending my money away to get the book Wing Chun written by one of his friends and classmates,
Yeah.
or friends and students. And after a while, I get a package in the mail. I'm so happy, and there's a letter and it says, "Sir, we're sorry the book you ordered is back ordered. We're gonna send it to you, but in the meantime, take this book as a gift." And it was a book on Hong God. I'm like, I don't want that's not what I asked for. But then not long after that, receiving that book was when Celestial Pictures um got the licensing for all the old Shaw Brothers movies. And that
Mhm.
started Kung Fu Theater on Saturdays, channel number 5 in New York. So I'm looking at what I'm watching on the screen and going, oh my God, that's the same thing in this book. So even that found me. You know,
Yeah.
it's just crazy. It was crazy how that happened. And then a number of years later, I actually found a Honga instructor, you know, a Honga master, and I've been with him ever since. I've been with him since 1989.
That's cool. I like
Yeah.
that you specialize a bit more in hung art because I feel like it never gets its credibility. Uh, like Sammo Hung was never as popular as Bruce Lee.
I'll tell you a story. You bring up Sammo Hung. So in the series that Danny Yen did on Yip Man, right?
Yeah,
Um, the second movie,
yeah.
Sammo Hung is the tech advisor in the movie, and he also co-stars, of course, in the movie.
Hmm.
And he's playing a Honga master.
Yep.
Well, what was interesting, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you from the insider perspective. One day I get a call from my Sifu. He's in China at the time, and he says, "I know this is going to be probably a no, but I'm going to ask anyway." I said, "What's that?" He goes, "Can you come to China?" I said, "When?" He goes, soon, like now." I'm like, "Nah, Sifu, I can't. Why are you asking?" He goes, "I know that you have an interest in film and that you've done some film stuff." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, you know, they're filming Yip Man 2. I go, "Yeah." He goes, "You know, Sammo Hung is the tech advisor for the movie." I go, "Oh, that's good." He goes, "Well, he just had a major heart attack and he's in the hospital." And he told the producers that if I don't make it for authenticity of my role, go to Toisan City and look up a man named Frank Yi Chi Wai. That's my seafood. So the producers didn't wait. They went anyway and talked with my seafood. He said, "No, I won't be in the movie, but I'll give you some material to use." And they actually used it in the movie. So that was pretty cool.
That's powerful. That table scene is one of my favorite martial arts scene in any
Oh,
movie.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah, cool stuff.
Sammo Hung, I always respected him because he, like most of the cool characters in like fiction and stuff, it's the
Yeah.
unassuming person that's the powerful one. And because of his large size, they assumed he'd be slow. He's one of the fastest martial artists they got.
It reminds me of a line in the one rendition of King Kong that Jack Black starred in,
Hmm.
where the one of the stars is telling the actor who's trying to get up out of there, right? He goes, "I figured you, you know," he goes, "Yeah, I figured you just act, you're just acting. You're really a coward." He goes, "Look, guy, I'm just an actor. I play heroes." He said, "Real heroes are balding with beer guts." You know, so you're right. Sammo Hung is definitely in appearance, you know, he's in appearance, he doesn't look like what we've been trained to think a hero looks like.
Yeah. And that, like, one of my favorite stories about him is the Bruce Lee story of him,
Yeah.
where they went to spar. And for people that know Sammo, Sammo is fast.
Yes, he is. Yes, he
He
is.
said that they went to spar and Sammo took one step and Bruce's foot was on his head. And that was
Already there. Yeah,
the
yeah,
end of
yeah.
the match.
Yes, 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 yes.
I
One of
love
the
that.
things about Bruce, you know, like the name of his pursuit, I have to put it that way.
Hmm.
People say the name of his style. Okay. The name of his pursuit was called Jeet Kune Do, right? The
Hmm.
term Jeet, he interpreted it as intercept,
Hmm.
right? Okay. It has a deeper understanding. The term Jeet, right? We could say cutting,
Hmm.
like as in the Buddhist sutra doctrine, the Buddhist Diamond Sutra doctrine. The Diamond Sutra idea is we cut away all the superfluous and get right to the heart of the matter, right? In
Hmm.
Islam, they would say al-muntaqim, the straight path, just get straight to the issue. So as that relates to the story with Sammo Hung, yeah, Bruce was fast. Sammo Hung was fast too. But what made Bruce even more amazing in this respect was timing.
Hmm.
He wasn't intercepting Sammo Hung's attack. He was intercepting Sammo Hung's thought to attack. That's why it seems so fast. See?
That's powerful.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, because I'm a nerd and somewhat of a martial artist myself, I could talk about
Nice.
this all
I can
day.
tell. I can tell.
Wing Chun, like I've trained a little bit of boxing and Wing Chun together, so that was
Very
fun.
nice. Very nice. Very
uh,
nice. That
but
means for you, clinch range is third gear. Yeah.
yeah, this is my favorite, within arm's reach.
That's right. Within arm's reach. That's right.
um, so shifting gears just a little bit,
Sure.
because even for me, I understood martial arts as a byproduct of metaphysics. So talk
Agreed.
more about your spiritual journey. How did you really start to tap into spirituality? Because you, like myself, is a jack of all trades. You've kind of dabbled in everything.
A lot of things. Yes. Yes. So, okay. So, we have what's called, and a lot of times greatly misunderstood, especially in Chinese martial arts, what we call internal power.
Mm-hmm.
Internal power. People talk about chi and things like that. And in the West, it gets real spooky,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's actually something very, very practical. So let's just start with the base practicality. If I can say a word to someone, I say, "How are you?"
Mm-hmm.
But then I say it like this, or then but it's somebody that I haven't seen in 15 years, and "How are you?" Oh, it's totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different effect, even though the words are exactly the same.
It
Well,
comes
what
from a different place.
exactly? So there's something else there that gave it stronger impact, and not just a stronger impact, but a warming impact. It didn't just shape the magnitude, but the quality, right? Okay. So what started it was my heartfelt sentiment in seeing a loved one that I haven't seen in 10 or 20 years. So it started from a feeling that generated a state of mind. And it was that state of mind and that feeling that was the power behind the word. So if we think of a word like a punch, it's my intent and it's my feeling and state of mind powering it that gets a greater effect. That's internal power. So we say the intent leads the energy. The
Mm-hmm.
energy energizes the body beyond normal capacity. It's just that simple. But there are very, very specific and diverse methods of training that process. That's internal power training.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you want to call it chi, whatever you want to call it. We can train the process just like we can train a punch. You see? Now, that said, in the faith tradition that I'm a part of, we say thinking is a function of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
You see? Thinking, understanding, reasoning, and willing. Call these not the soul, they are its actions, they're not its essence. That's what we say.
Yes.
Right? And in Western psychology began with the West's pursuit of evidence of the soul. There we go. You see? So yes, gradually over time, training the physical, and then coming into an understanding of how powerful this is and how powerful this is. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like internal training, or what we call external training, goes from outside to inside. But so many people are just focused on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
They get to a particular level of external expression and they think that's the end of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. They think that's the end of the game.
I even like that. Talking about Bruce Lee again, one of the things that I liked about him is that he believed in training every part of your body, not just the showy parts of the body.
Yeah.
Like he trained his fingers, he trained his wrists, he trained elbow, like he trained every part of his body so that there was no weakness in his body, so that his body did whatever his mind wanted it to do.
What you just said was perfect. There's a style in Chinese martial arts called Xing Yi, right? And Ching Yi literally means form and intent boxing. The ideal is that my expression perfectly reflects my intent.
Mm-hmm.
That means this can do what this is thinking. See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I noticed in the video that you did with the bodybuilder. I don't remember his name.
Indio Champ. Shout out to Indio
Yeah.
Champ. Good man.
Yeah. When y'all were doing the different workouts, you, as a martial artist, train those other parts of the body. They don't show off as much. You don't necessarily get bigger wrists from doing wrist exercises or bigger fingers from doing finger exercises.
That's right.
But they get stronger.
Absolutely.
So that's how you were able to balance weights on your fingertips, because all of that's trained.
Absolutely. That's right. And it's just function. It's like a bodybuilder, yeah, they're training strength, you know, and they're training other things, but they're really training aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's other benefits. There's strength, there's fitness, there's wellness, all those things. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're training combatives.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a level of athleticism for combat. It's not the same, you see? And there's a level of so we're training for a different purpose.
Yeah.
That's it. We're training for a different purpose, you know. So, but and even in the videos you show, there's a mutual respect.
Yeah.
For what each other does. It's like, man, I can't do what you do. Some things maybe, like I tell you, those flying push-ups, I'd never done them before. Yeah, I'd never done those before, man. Woof. So
yeah, those are tough. But those are the punching power exercises. So those,
yeah,
I don't.
I know. Well, you know what got me through those was, again, you know, we train something called body connection. Mm-hmm. So integrated strength. So like you got some fitness people that, you know, are big core training fanatics. They train the core. Great. We do too. But we want to connect our extremities to the core. Mm-hmm. So that when you punch, you're really feeling my core. When I kick, you're really feeling my core. Mm-hmm. You see? Like that. So it's that training, that integrated strength training that allowed me to do those.
Yeah. So in bridging this with spiritual talk, this is going to sound off topic to the audience, but it's not. Talk a little bit about the Moorish Science.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So real simple. Moorish Science is simply this. Moorish Science is simply a body of knowledge based on identification that seeks to distinguish the descendants of slaves from the institution of slavery. Simple, right? In other words, we reject the idea, we begin with rejecting the idea that a people are identified by a former condition of servitude. See, we reject that idea. So there's a negation in the beginning. Just like when we say, like, you know, Muslims all over the world, when they make the declaration of faith, they say, you know, in the Arabic, it's La ilaha, right? There is no reality. There is only God. See? So there's first a negation. It's like our brothers in India. They don't say we go up to God. They say we go down to God. What do you mean by that? They say because everything you need in terms of nearness to God, you already have. The reason there's a separation is because all the craziness you stacked on top of it. Mm-hmm. So it's a peeling away. See? It's a negation first. See? Mm-hmm. It recognizes that I've done a whole bunch of foolishness to cover up what God has already put there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see? So that's what Moorish Science is. In the beginning, it's that. It's negating that we're our own experiences. No, we are not our experiences. See, every nation suffered slavery, every nation.
Mm-hmm.
But no other nation of people is pressed to identify themselves by their former condition of servitude.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's it. And so from that point, now we say, okay, well, then if I'm not a product of a former condition of servitude, then what am I?
Mm-hmm.
Truly, what am I? Am I this? This remains perfect when I've left it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I can't be this. If I'm not this, then what am I? So people I like how this one school of thought puts it when they immerse people into what they call occultism.
Mm-hmm.
It's not well, you got the regular world and then you've got the occult world. They say, no. You've always lived in an occult world. You just weren't aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
When people say, well, I'm a spirit having a human experience. Yeah, you're right. But let's really, really embody that.
Yeah.
Really embody that. You see? Let's not make it a cliche term. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's really see ourselves as a living soul. Let's really see ourselves as human spirit with a soul covering that happens to be in a spaceship that we call a flesh suit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's really see ourselves that way. You know, and through stages and degrees of experience, learn to live that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
What are some of the manifestations of that?
wow, oof, a lot. Okay,
And my audience can handle it, so you can
you're
be
asking
spooky
great
if you
questions.
want.
I love it. I love it. You're asking great questions. So the moment I begin, let's just say this, you know, do I believe that a human being can fly? Okay, if I'm going to be very honest with myself, my answer would be, I've never seen it yet. My answer would not be the innocent ignorance of saying, no, it can't be done because I've never seen it.
Mm-hmm.
See, I can't say that. Okay. So the moment I accept that it might be possible, that opens the door for the probability. See, we go from possibility to probability
Mm-hmm.
at that point. So if I say, okay, well, wait a minute, if these are closed, if this flesh is just closed for my soul, I don't have a funeral and lament when I take my regular clothes off to take a shower and go to bed. Likewise, I don't wake up and put on new clothes and then say, congratulations, it's a boy, and then smoke cigars. I don't do that either.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if I truly am human spirit clothed with soul, then an entire lifetime is a day to the soul. And then I start to think this and think this and think, and then live this way. It changes my quality of life. It changes how I interact with others, right? It changes how I handle hardship. See? It changes my perspective of morality.
Mm-hmm.
You know? In other words, my thinking is now mutated because I've been exposed to occult radiation.
Mm-hmm.
You see? Yeah. And things that the average world would consider extrasensory
Mm-hmm.
become now commonplace. Because if I've accepted that I'm a living soul, that means things like time and space aren't the same.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That means that means terms like in quantum mechanics, quantum entanglement
Yeah.
are accessible in a personal way. That means, okay. That means that when Jesus in the Bible is recorded as saying, the kingdom of heaven is inside you. That means we can experience it now.
Yeah. So in this, I like this vein. Talk a little bit about what it looks like to master your world. And in addition to that, how much of an effect can we have on the world around us?
Huge, man. Huge. Again, I love the questions. If we accept the thought that we live in an occult reality, just most people are unaware of the fact. What are the direct implications? Quantum entanglement is a direct implication. Every living thing is bound by cords to every other living thing. So, let's follow the bouncing ball a step further. If I change me, I've changed the world.
Yeah.
I've changed the world. All I can do is change me. Isn't that something? That's liberating. Now, it doesn't make it easy.
Nah. But it makes it true.
Exactly. And it's not supposed to be easy, because that's another thing. If we are spiritual beings, and in the spiritual realm, there is no distinction between time and space. Our work is to bring that reality down into physicality. See? But what does that? Creative tension does that. That's why there's the need for an opposition. There's a need for the ops. There's a need for the adversary.
Yeah.
Because without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength. You see? And thought must be developed. How? By the exercise of strength. You need a devil. You need a shaitan. You need that. The shaitan is our helpmeet.
Yeah, it's a personal trainer.
Yes. Come on. You don't get bigger by running away from the weights. You got to get up under the weights. That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
You need the resistance to bring the strength out of you. To elevate thought, you need the resistance. So we've been taught, see how backwards we've been taught. Like, okay, in the Bible, the way it's been translated and communicated to the West, right? The tree of knowledge of good and evil. The actual Aramaic word for good is the word tov. And the actual Aramaic word translated in evil is the word ra. Well, tov doesn't mean good. Ra doesn't mean evil. Tov means to keep stagnant, to keep fixed, to keep stable. Ra means to stir up, to agitate, to cause motion.
It's polarity.
See? Yes. And so now we know what brings, when you're stagnant, that brings decay. No, right? For those out there that are astrologers, you know this well. If you saw a birth chart of someone and there were no hard aspects, no oppositions, and no squares, you know right off top what? This person is mentally challenged. They're what we would call slow, because there are no opportunities in their chart to exercise strength and develop.
Yeah.
Right? So we've been taught that good is stay away from struggle. No, it's just the opposite, right? It's like the movie Frankenstein. We're so messed up in our thinking, we think Frankenstein was the name of the monster. No, that's the name of the doctor. You know what I mean? His name was Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And what did he do? Made a monster and then ran from him the rest of the movie. That's us. We have to run towards our demon. Yeah.
This is great. Maybe they'll listen to you. You know, I'm still young, so people don't listen to me when I say this stuff.
You know, truth is but one, man. You know, nobody has a
Yeah.
monopoly on truth. We might have different ways to say it. Like there's a quote that came from one of Bruce Lee's students. He said, "There's only one way to tell the truth." We might use different languages. We might use different words, but truth is one.
Yeah. I taught the same thing at a business conference just recently.
Nice.
Just that in order for us to really progress, we have to change our relationship with adversity. Because far too often we worship leisure.
Yes.
Whatever comes easy must be God. Whatever I have to work for must not be for me.
I love the way you put that. That's right.
So we've subconsciously talked ourselves out of a lot of progress just because we didn't want the regiment that came with the progress. Because that's the way I take things is if I want that and I'm able to think of it, it must exist. What is the regiment that it requires for me to walk in it?
And that regimen is what we would call methodology. If I can think it, it's possible. And if I've thought it, then it's attainable. All we need now is methodology. What's the path there? Yeah. We just need methodology at that point.
Because they say insanity is doing the same thing over, expecting a different result. I'd also like to say trying to do the same thing to get different results is also a measure of insanity.
That's insanity.
This works for this. It's not supposed to work for that.
Correct.
The same way that I cook chicken isn't the same way I cook pork.
Nope.
Different meats, different recipes.
Different recipes. That's a fact.
I like my beef medium rare.
There you go.
Chicken is not supposed to be medium rare.
Good way to go to the hospital.
Neither is pork.
Right.
You got to know what you're doing. So that's the way, like, I like something you said earlier. It's applicable spirituality, things that actually have a function, a science behind it. Because if I can figure out the steps and the mechanics, one of the things that failed us, because most of us come from a Christian background.
Correct.
Was one of the things that failed us was pretty much the idea that we have no control over anything that's happening around us.
Right.
If it happens, God wanted it to happen. If it don't happen, it's either God didn't want it or the devil is busy. One or the other. But we're not supposed to take responsibility for none of this, which means we're stuck in a state where life is happening to all of us rather than us happening to life.
That is not liberating teaching. And Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free."
Yeah.
Right?
You know, he's never heard this gospel they preach today.
I promise you he hasn't. He said, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock." Well, if you don't have the volition to get up off the couch and get to the door and open it, you know what I mean? What did the Elohim say in Genesis 3rd chapter after Adam and Eve ate the fruit? Behold, the man has become like one of us. You see?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that same vein, talk a little bit on the importance or the science, if you will, of myth as it pertains to meditation.
Yo, I love these questions. Oh my goodness, man. All right. First. Yeah, I'll just jump into it. So we talked earlier about psychology, and psychology being, you know, in the West being a search for proof of the soul, right? Thinking is a soul function. The fact, you know, that Descartes said, "Cogito ergo sum," I think, therefore I am, right? Was evidence that he had a soul, right? So, Carl Jung, the father of archetypal psychology, did a similar sabbatical. And he realized something very profound. He said, there are things in my mind that are not of my making. right? And so this began his foray into archetypes, patterns that are so deeply embedded into the psyche that they shape human behavior on so many levels, right? And they're playing in the background even if we're not aware. Even if we're not aware. So meditation is like, if I were to perform ritual, like let's say a ritual, like ritual magic, I've got my altar set up in this particular place. I've got my circle. I've got this. I got all these other things, and I'm going around doing it. Turn that process inside out, and you have meditation.
Yep.
Your consciousness is the operator, and the room of operations where the altar is inside here and inside here. Right now, that said, it's work, but it's also exploration. So we're exploring things like the old grimoires during the medieval era, where they would conjure up 72 demons. And there was a common underlying pattern to each one of these demons you conjure up. You conjure them up into the circle, into the triangle of manifestation. He appears as this terrible looking thing with a whole bunch of eyes or a whole bunch of legs or whatever. And you're told what? The biggest command you're told, fear not. When it appears that way, you command it to appear in more acceptable form, and you suppress your fear, and it does. And then it apologizes and then says, what do you need? Here we go. Those 72 demons are deep patterns, malevolent patterns in your psyche.
Yeah.
That you are now calling to order. You know what I mean? And so meditation, to your question, is huge. It's a tool. It's a blessing given to us. It's a gift given to us so we can manage ourselves at the higher levels of existence, because man is the Lord of all the planes of manifest. We got to be about our job. Yeah, we got to be about our job. What landlord doesn't go pay a visit to all the properties that he owns?
Y'all messing up the blinds I put in here.
Right. You know, and making sure the tenants are doing what they're supposed to do. That's what that is, you know. Now, and so this brings to mind another thought. And that thought is, why does the story of Jesus, regardless of religious faith, have so much power? Why? Whether you believe he was a historical figure or not. Very simple. One of the deepest patterns in human psyche is asking this one question: what happens when I die? The story of Jesus, whether you believe it or not, whether you take it as historical or not, is irrelevant. The story has so much power and influence because it answers that question.
Yeah.
It represents, the story of Jesus represents the next stage in human evolution. And that's why it's so powerful. That's why it has such a hold on human beings.
That reminds me of, and the nerds that watch my channel will love this too. What's happening in DC universe right now with Superman?
Yes.
How he is, his narrative is hope, which means he's technically immortal and can never be erased from the story.
Right.
Which means at any moment he gets ready to lose, the story that he is rewrites itself so that he's still victorious.
Isn't that something? That's right.
So when you talk about the power of a story, that comes to mind.
Right down to the point where time, that's so deep, where time, even time itself, becomes an object that we can manipulate. In our faith tradition, we have, our literature begins with a major initiation. That's, and it's a statement. Time never was when man was not. To even contemplate the thought, you have to place a portion of your consciousness outside of time.
Yeah. It even gets me into the idea of, because in the modern world, when we think of myths, we usually think of the ancient stuff. So we think of mythology. We think of the Greeks, the Romans, the Hindus, the Egyptians.
Yes.
And we forget that, like I just mentioned, comic books are a form of modern day myth when
It
used
really is.
correctly. But we subconsciously create our own myths and narratives, because when you talk about personifications or embodiments of a certain concept, that's usually how they present the Netzeru
Yes.
or the Orisa, is
Yes.
an idea of reality personified in a digestible form.
You got it.
If we were to come up with myth today, and I wanted to talk about the power of God, right?
Yes.
I could take, well, what are some of the more powerful things that we have in our world today? It's like, okay, you got a locomotive train, a monster truck, a nuclear bomb,
Yeah.
and a tank, and I mixed that together. Well,
Yes.
this is now the new archetype of power.
Come
I give
on.
it some aggressive name like Doomageddon or something like that. This is now the god of power, and I created it because this is a way for me to focus on power.
Absolutely. You
So
just you you
subconsciously,
just
I
you just
believe we
created
make that.
you just created and like in wow, that's deep. And see, but see that's a very amazing and terrible power,
Yeah.
but it's very real. We to your point about mythos.
Mm-hmm.
Mythos is a means of conveying the handling of deep archetypes in the psyche and passing this information on thousands of years, regardless of time, climate, culture, language, etc., in a way that it conveys a ton of information and you don't lose any.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Mythos is powerful. But even like what you just said, though, to take it a step further, if you
Mm-hmm.
understand the mythos, let me dial it back one step back.
Mm-hmm.
Mythos, because of what it is a compendium of patterns in the psyche. Mythos has the power to influence real-time action and activity in the world, even though
Mm-hmm.
it itself is intangible. It can affect the world in a phenomenological way. It
Mm-hmm.
can cause real events to happen. Now, when people like yourself understand the mythos,
Yeah.
and now you can, to a greater or lesser degree, embody the mythos.
Mm-hmm.
You now acquire its power to impinge on reality.
One of the proofs to what you just said is the one toy you can get for any kid, and they all love it. Legos. They build a world, and they see themselves as god of the world.
That's it,
That's just comedic science.
brother. Do you know what else that is? Take a class in movie script writing.
Mm-hmm.
They literally call it world building.
Yeah. So that
Yes.
thing that we all did as kids in one way, shape, or form, even if you was poor and didn't have Legos, you played with rocks, you played with sticks, and you created a world out of it for you to govern.
Brother.
Something I recently found out is there was a pharaoh. I wish I remembered his name, but that's how he was going to war. He would build a set of the enemy's army and take them out by different phenomenon, and it would happen.
That's powerful. That's powerful. So to your point, what was the thought? I just lost my train of thought. Um, it'll come back to me.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole idea of world building,
Mm-hmm.
right? So certain occult, oh, that's what it was. That was my thought. Here we go. Certain occult organizations, that's part of their training. They're required to do that, right? And then they have to explain and defend their world to their peers. Now, there's a very famous or infamous individual that did this exact same thing and made himself a multimillionaire. He was a member of an occult organization called the Ordo Templi Orientis, or the OTO.
Mm-hmm.
You all know his name. His name was L. Ron Hubbard.
Mm-hmm.
And he created Scientology.
Mm-hmm.
Scientology was his world, his mythos. He created it. Yeah.
Yeah. And in a way that explains by something that we know is fictional, like H.P. Lovecraft's novels. We
Correct.
know they're fictional, yet people still somehow draw power and inspiration from it. It's not a question on whether Cthulhu ever existed. We know he didn't.
Exactly.
But for some reason, people can still draw on a power.
There are whole occult organizations based on H.P. Lovecraft's work. And they're not there just because they're fans of H.P. Lovecraft. They've done what they've done because there's power in the mythos that he presented. That's right. That is right. You know, Philip Dick, same thing with his work. You know, Philip Dick's work was based on a series of enlightenments that he got that, you know, were very difficult for him. But he wrote about it. And through that elevated state of mind, he was able to write very, very powerful stuff. You know, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? That was, you know, Blade Runner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he wrote that. And then there's all kinds of other things that he wrote that just like, it's mind-bending stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I guess it comes down to the ability to digest the same truth. We started with this. We said this way earlier that truth is one.
Truth is one.
And myth is just the avenue to kind of digest that truth.
Yes.
That's why people have a fascination with the movie The Matrix.
Of course.
It's very digestible.
Yes. But there's so many layers. There's so many layers to it, right? Depending on your level of advancement in thinking. So, you know, what you said about mythos, I agree with you 100%, right? But let's take somebody like Philip Dick, who his mind touched something, and it stretched his mind just past his limit. Very difficult for him. So perception is power. The truth is one. Then there's our approach to truth. And too often, we confuse our approach to truth as truth itself, right? And so our objective for the enlightened individual is to expand our perception and not crack our psyche in the process.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which goes back to you tying it in with martial arts. There is such thing as actually hurting yourself because you tried to do too much at one time.
There you go.
And the mind is no different.
Correct. And in here, especially us, we're Westerners, we think more viscerally, more physically, right? Damage here, because we're not so sensitive as other people are. By the time we realize that there's damage, it's too much. It's just like, you know, let's take martial arts analogy. I can lock a wrist or I can do a finger lock. Ow, 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 that hurts. Locking an ankle is different. Locking a knee is different. Why? Less nerves. So by the time you realize, oh, I'm in trouble, it's broken probably. Yeah. You know? So it's very similar in spiritual matters for Westerners. By the time we realize, wait a minute, something might be wrong. Yeah.
The alarm went off too late.
Exactly. The alarm went off too late. That's right.
This reminds me of a topic, and biohacking. Do you know anything in the vein of biohacking? Because it seems similar, of recognizing the body's regular responses to things and then using that to your advantage.
I give an example. Real spirituality, and this is you're familiar. Real spirituality. I'm not talking about what the West has accepted as spirituality, which is really secularized.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a car without an engine. You're actually surprised if it goes anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Real spirituality to the West looks like witchcraft.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So real spirituality from the perspective of modern man today. Real spirituality is jailbreaking the human system. So it's just like I get this cell phone, right? And I get an operator's manual. The operator's manual tells me everything that the phone can do. Wrong. No, it doesn't. It tells me everything that's covered by the warranty.
Yeah.
Doesn't tell me everything it can do. Right? But if I find out there's some other things I can do with this thing, and I call Apple about it, they'll say, yeah, but that's not covered by the warranty. In other words, you jack it up, it's a Frisbee now. We're not responsible. You see? So today's world, the world view that we have today, has us all in a box. See? Has us all in a box. And it tells you, and it's got strong guards outside that look real mean and tough that say, go outside this box if you want to. When the Jesus is saying, oh yeah, salvation's outside the box. Yeah. Yeah. Your real destiny is outside the box.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's a hostage situation we didn't realize we were in.
We didn't realize we're in it. There you go. So biohacking, the term biohacking is like a cool way to say get free. You know, obey the God. Yeah, get free. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then, but it's like, but that sounds dangerous. Of course it's dangerous. If it wasn't if it wasn't dangerous, it wouldn't be rewarding now, would it?
Yeah.
You know, of course there's risk. I go to a martial arts school, I might get punched in the face. Absolutely. It's occupational hazard. You just might get punched in the mouth. It could happen. But guess what? You're there to learn how not to get punched in the mouth. I think it's a negligible risk. What you think? Because out in the world, what's going to happen? You're going to get punched in the mouth.
Yeah. They're going to throw the punch. You know what to do with it or not? No.
Right.
And I believe, like, if the box was just a little bit bigger, right? We'd be better off. More of us would be better along if the box was just a little bit bigger.
Just a little bigger.
It stops you right at what someone else, one person, is allowed to do.
There you go.
They say only Christ can do this. Just him.
Right. Just him. When he said, do what? Imitate me.
Yeah, he said you can do greater works.
Right. Right.
You know, greatest dead raising story I found in the Bible was in the Old Testament. He's not even the best dead raiser in the Bible.
Not even.
Spoke to a city and the city came back to life.
The city came back. Come on.
I like that.
See that? Ain't that something? Whew. See, so we're, you know, the whole thing with okay. There's a point in history, like you mentioned about Moorish Science. A big part of Moorish Science in the study of ourselves, any study, you have to begin with the right elements. So a big part of that is what we would call Moorish history. So is Moorish history the totality of the history of our people? Absolutely not. No, it's a part of the totality of the history of our people. But it's a key part. Why? Because it's stuff that was taken away and missing on purpose.
Yeah. It's the Apocrypha of history.
The Apocrypha, I like that. The Apocrypha of history. So who would have thought, like, for instance, this actually took place during the Spanish Inquisition. First of all, where did that take place? We already know. The Iberian Peninsula, right? We know who it involved. So why, during the Spanish Inquisition, were 34 Negroes in Mexico City hanged and decapitated to deter possible opposition to the Spanish Inquisition? What in the world does that in Mexico City have to do with what's going on the other side of the pond? So there's certain things that we can readily infer. That there were people that look like you and me in the quote unquote new world in sufficient amounts to cause concern about opposition to something that was happening over there that was put together by the Roman Catholic Church and by Torquemada. You see? So it's things like, see, that's deep.
Yeah.
You know, that the Spanish Inquisition, that's why I'm bringing this up as what you said about biohacking, right? The Spanish Inquisition, matter of fact, I'm going to read a quote. Let me find it really quick. It comes from a man by the name of Peter Tompkins.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Tompkins wrote a book called Mysteries. He wrote a number of books, but this book in particular is called Mysteries of the Mexican Pyramids. And in the book, hold on just a second, let me get to the quote. In the book, he's talking about this particular episode about the Spanish Inquisition. I'm going to read to you exactly what he said. There it is. He said, designed for the detection and the punishment of heretics, the Inquisition was used as a giant pork barrel for the enrichment of the crown, church, and inquisitors, while cheerfully eliminating dangerous radicals, those who had been taught medicine, geography, rhetoric, chemistry, physics, mathematics, and astronomy by Moorish philosophers in universities such as Cordova, whose libraries have since been destroyed. The Inquisition was also an excuse to rid the planet of organized mystics, such as Illuminati, pantheists, Manichaeans, and Albigensians. As a result, no Spaniard could write, speak, or even think without taking into consideration the torture racks and fires of the Holy Office. Then it says, as a deterrent to possible opposition in New Spain, 34 Negroes, including 4 women, were hanged and decapitated in Mexico City. Crazy. So what we call biohacking today is what our forefathers in the Iberian Peninsula called higher education. And the Spanish Inquisition tortured that way of thinking out of our minds.
The same thing happened when the French called any form of supernatural occurrence voodoo.
There you go.
Now, all of us Negro people in America are convinced that if anything supernatural happens, it must be the devil. It has to be witchcraft.
Yes, that's Inquisitionist thinking, people. That's Inquisitionist thinking. Our forefathers weren't thinking that way. We were on the we were on the receiving end of people saying that to us about what we considered higher education.
Yeah. And what I've been teaching on this a lot lately. If you notice, still using the Bible.
Yes.
Exodus. Moses is battling the magicians in Egypt.
Come on now.
Those are things that he learned how to do there that his God didn't consider witchcraft.
No.
Under Yahweh's law, witchcraft was punishable by death. So he never empowered him to do something he considered an abomination.
Come on now. That's right.
It was a science that he knew, and then he just empowered him to be a bit better at it. But everything Moses could do, all the other magicians could do. Turn a staff into a snake, turn water into blood, command the animals all around. They all could do that. That was just
part of it. That was just a little better at it. That's right. That's right.
That's 10th grade to them.
That's right. That's correct. He was just a little better at it, but that's right, brother.
Yeah. So you get to the other side of, and I'm borrowing this from now on, Inquisition thinking.
Yes.
All of these sciences are now dubbed witchcraft, so less people are encouraged to actually explore and learn in science.
You know what you have today, brother? I've got some friends that either were or still are currently involved in top secret special access programs. Right? And so what is known in these circles regarding what they call the UFO or UAP phenomena, known, what I'm telling you, this is known. There are actual teams that do this. They have psi teams. Because one of the requisites of either contacting and or operating these craft is having psi ability, the ability to tune in. And there's methods and machinery that develop and amplify these traits in human beings.
Yep. You just gave me scholarship for something I've been teaching.
Nice. Nice.
I figured that out by studying the Indus Valley civilizations.
Yes.
A lot of their technology is still there and still works. It's just that it requires a certain level of consciousness to activate and use.
You're talking about Vimana, Vilixi, and
All of that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's right, brother.
It takes a certain power level and it takes a certain methodology in order to operate. It's not fossilized.
Their whole teams, and this goes back to something I said about Western thinking, their whole teams, special access teams that find, gather, I'll use the word gather because that's a nicer word, and utilize individuals because they have more natural propensity to psi abilities. And they've noted that these types of individuals are usually found in what they call third world countries. Why? They are less industrialized and therefore they're closer to what we would call spiritual technology.
Yeah. And then one of the things, and I've heard this back when I was a Christian, starting to tap into the supernatural through that vein.
Yes.
The reason why lesser countries have more miracles is because they need them. They don't have as many options as us.
Period.
Simply put, if God doesn't do it, it doesn't get done.
It doesn't get done.
So they've learned how to get God to do it.
Come on, brother. It's just like the infant.
They have to.
It's like the infant that knows mom that's hungry and knows mom just pulled into the driveway. How? How? Because he has no other way but that way. But the way he knows. You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
So luxury has crippled us. Me and my wife recently watched the Riddick series.
Oh, yeah.
Vin Diesel, his first role. And in the last one, and it's an old movie. I don't care about spoiling it.
Exactly.
Movie old. In the last movie that came out, it starts off with him recovering and retraining. He's like, nope, I let myself get slow and sloppy.
Yes.
And he's still a tank.
Yes.
But he's just like, no, the level of instinct that I know I have, I let myself get just a little bit too comfortable. And I believe that's what's crippled our society. And I think it's been intentional. Definitely intentional.
I agree 100%. It's been intentional, but it can only go for so long because one of the things I like how Stephen Greer said it recently, or not him, it was another individual, another whistleblower. They said it like this. They said, look, it's only so long you can hold it down because you cannot redact consciousness.
Yeah.
See? Can't redact consciousness.
Yeah. There's too much happening at one time, and this is the backfire of technology.
Yes.
Is that in ages before, if information got out, you just burn the library.
That's it.
You kill the 10 people or even the city that knew about it and it's over with.
And it's over.
Well, today, if something happens in China, I know about it today in the United States 10 minutes later.
That's a fact.
Can't snuff it out.
Can't.
There's too much happening and not a way to really control it.
That's right. That's right. So to your point about the on purpose thing, the best security for the status quo is to convince all of us that none of this is true or believable.
Yeah. All it takes is just a few maniacs to come out and prove it practically, right?
That's it.
If you go to the store and there's a guy in there floating in the air,
right,
reading your mind, he's like, okay, has to be real.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. That's right. And as something you had mentioned earlier, if the phenomena appears, there's your proof. I don't care if it happened once.
Yeah.
There's your proof. And if it can be done once, it can be done again.
Yeah.
And if it can be done again, we can develop a methodology or find a methodology that allows us to improve upon it and make it more frequent.
Yep. I got one more question for you.
Sure.
And this is an elementary question.
Go ahead.
Talk about your cap or your hat.
Oh, the fez. Absolutely. So Great question. So in the Moorish Science Symbol of America, again, as I mentioned about our definition of Moorish Science, we're studying ourselves. And so we want to draw a distinction, not just to ourselves, but in the eyes of society, specifically American society. We want to draw a distinction between descendants of slaves and the institution of slavery.
Yeah.
See? So we have a history pre-slavery. Now, when I have a rope and the rope's broken or cut, I don't tie it here. I tie it where it was cut. So what happens with a lot of us, we say, yeah, of course we had a pre-slavery history. We built pyramids. That happened back here. What happened here?
Yeah.
That's the part that's missing. That's the part that's missing. You see what I'm saying? So we want to tie it where it was cut. So when you know where it was cut, you're like, oh, wait a minute. Quick example. I'm still talking about the Fez. One of my brothers in the movement, in our movement, the Moorish movement, he and his sister built an award-winning charter school in Memphis, Tennessee. Award-winning. So they're education specialists. So he was in this mall, and there was some brothers from Lebanon. He was going to get some food, and there was some brothers from Lebanon at this spot that he was getting food at. They saw him with his fez on. They said, "Why are you wearing that?" Right? So we call it tarbush. He goes, "Yeah, we call it fez." They go, "Yeah. It's the same thing." Okay, fine. Why are you wearing it? He says, "Oh, because I'm a Moorish American." They said, "What's that?" They said, the Moors from Africa, Morocco. He goes, he goes, yeah, the Moors from, and then, we took over Spain. They go, oh, this is what these guys said. Listen, they said, oh, you mean the ancestors to the African Americans. And he looked at them with his mouth agape, like, huh? How do you know that? Know what they said to them? They're from Lebanon. They said, we learned that in school. They said, but our question is, how did you know that? Because we know that that's hidden from you guys. See? Now, I say all that to say the very first, and this history bears me out, the very first, and I have to put it in quotes, African slaves in the African transatlantic slave trade did not come from continental Africa. They came from Spain. They came from the Iberian Peninsula. See, and now we're talking about a chunk of hidden history. Why Western civilization does not like talking about the fact that Spain colonized America over 100 years before the English.
Yeah.
Nobody likes talking about that. For this one simple reason. Because an African Islamic diasporic political entity controlled and ruled Spain for nearly 800 years. That's why. So this fez is a cultural accoutrement. It's not just religious and spiritual, it's cultural. It's what we call in cultural heritage a tangible cultural hereditament. That's it. Nice. It demonstrates my cultural heritage.
That's nice.
Yes,
sir. I like that. And you gave me a lot of scholarship for some of the things. I want to do a lecture on I forgot the phrasing of it, but the makeup of the American Negro, the African American.
Yes.
Because there's a truth and a reasoning behind how are y'all related to everybody that we're often criticized for.
Absolutely.
A simple answer for people who don't want to wait for the lecture: we were bred like cattle. That's part of it.
But now watch this. I'm glad you said that. And you're right. You're 100% right. But let's take it a step earlier. When we ruled Spain, and we did, that was not a specific African ethnic group. That was an African diasporic entity.
Yep.
Many different tribes made up the empire.
Yep.
And that complexity and diversity is reflected perfectly in the present day so-called African American.
Yep. This is great.
Yes, sir. Dude, we got to do this more often. I'm getting to see, you're interviewing me, but I'm getting to know you more. This is good stuff, man.
Yeah, we definitely gonna have to work on some things. I might
For
get you
sure.
to help me with that seminar.
Brother, I would love to aid and assist. I would love to aid and assist. Matter of fact, awesome. When this finishes, I'm gonna send you a presentation I did a number of years ago for the a group called Educators for Excellence. It's a group of professional educators, and they asked me to do a presentation on American racism. So I did it from this narrative. And it contains a lot of this stuff and a ton of things. The hidden stuff that shows the present day complexion and why it gives more deeper reason to why, to the whys.
Yeah. I figured it out by studying the natives.
Yes. Yes. Are you familiar with, there's a book by the late Charshi McIntyre. The book is called The Criminalizing of a Race. The name is somewhat deceptive. The name is somewhat deceptive. She's talking about free Black communities during slavery. And then upon emancipation, how the prison industry came up. Okay, all right. And not just prison industry, but reclassification.
Yep. Slavery was never abolished.
How a lot of Native Americans became Negroes by the stroke of a pen.
Yeah.
Yes.
And a lot of Caucasians became Native Americans with $5.
With $5.
This is great. You're gonna get me in trouble the last 5 minutes of this. So let's see. So I kind of want to open the floor for you to share any last bits of wisdom that you want to leave with the audience, and also tell people where they can connect with you.
Sure.
Or if you have any books, products, or anything like that.
A number of things. I've done, so like what you said about practicality and practical spirituality, I'm a big stickler of that. Big stickler. One of the latest things that I've been involved in is research, alchemical research, real alchemical research. Over 10 years worth of research on what's called, in literature, in alchemical literature, the philosopher's stone. And what was stumbled upon or so-called rediscovered in the West by a man by the name of David Hudson. Right? And now you have a ton of fake fugazi products out there claiming to be what he stumbled upon. Well, we have the real thing. Again, I did the research, a ton of research. I've done a number of presentations on it. I did a presentation on this on Brother Rich's Black Magic 363. Right? This is the product called monoatomic gold. Right? So we carry a real and authentic monoatomic gold product that we stand by. What's more important than the product is the knowledge. It's not the possessing of a thing, it's the knowing of its use. So, a lot of us, we still think like drug addicts.
Yeah.
We still think like drug addicts. We don't think like, to quote Yoda in Empire Strikes Back, luminous beings are we, not just crude flesh.
Yeah. Yeah. People look for a shortcut rather than an assistant because.
Yes. Yes. So we carry that, I can be found. You can find me on Instagram, Sharif Bey or Sifu Sharif. Also, you can find me on YouTube under the same thing, on TikTok, Sifu Sharif, and on Facebook, Sharif Anael Bey. A number of books. You can look me up on Amazon. I have a number of books in publication. I got more. I've been pressed to write more. There's a lot more that I got to do. I'm just your brother, like I said, I'm a member. I'm the National Press Secretary for the Moorish Science Symbol of America. We have we in the movement, the Moorish movement, have a lot of work to do, a lot of cleaning up to do. A lot of what I've written on the movement is penance work and cleanup work.
Mm-hmm.
It's cleanup work, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity to vibe with a like mind, brother.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Likewise. You know, I don't get to have these types of conversations all too often.
It's just good to know that there's light, that somebody's got their light on.
Yeah, you know, most people, they say the light's on, nobody's home.
Right.
It's good to talk to somebody that's home.
That's home. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, brother, this has been great having you on.
Yes,
And thank y'all. Please go out and check out some of his work, some of his content. He's full of knowledge, full of wisdom.
thank you.
Look into him at the very least.
But I can say the same about you now. Like, man.
So with that being said, this concludes this episode of The Inner. Until next time, y'all be blessed. Later.